Once more into the breach, dear friends. So, I tried recording this before and failed miserably because I forgot to do something and I could do it live and made it interesting, but whatever. My name is Matt, welcome to Rebel 73. This video should go up on literally New Year's Eve of 2023. It's about, I've decided to start watching Sharpe, the TV show, which is based on Bernard Cornwell's long-running book series. You know, I turned 50 this year, and I'm working on my health. I've lost some weight. This year I lost about 45 pounds. And if I can have a surgery next year to remove a gigantic, 45, 50-pound tumor off of my groin, then I could probably do a lot better with that. So, but that being that being said, I've realized even if I get my health perfect, if I lose all the weight, become like a workout superstar and all that, I'm still not going to live much more than 15 to 30 years, right? And I realized that my list of books to read, my list of books to reread, my list of old movies that I haven't seen yet, my list of old TV shows I haven't seen yet, a list of music I want to hear that I haven't heard yet, and and that's just those things. I mean, in theory, I'd like to maybe learn a language or two, even though I'm getting older. I'd like to do some see some sites in the U.S. and there's a lot of, this list is so long of this stuff that I'm never gonna live long enough to finish it, right? And it put me in a perspective of, well, given how much crap is going on in the modern entertainment field, just subject myself to less of that. Maybe I'll watch and skim watch it just to see if I like it or not. I'll give something like 20 minutes or an hour or one episode or whatever, and then just say no. So that being said, I am going to try to add stuff in that I do like, right? For example, I'm doing the Yu Hakusho show. If the first episode sucked, I wouldn't do it, right? I would have just stopped, but it didn't, so I'm going to keep going. So I'm going to add in an older show that I don't know if I'm going to like this or not, but I recall seeing This is Sharpe, which is a TV show starring Sean Bean, based on a book series by Bernard Cornwell. He is an author on that list I mentioned to you. There's 20-something books in the series. They made a bunch of them into movies, which are really long TV show episodes. And I recall seeing years and years ago, I think most of it was in the 90s. I recall seeing it on PBS, but they didn't tell you it was a TV show. They were just, I like Sean Bean. Oh, there's a Sean Bean movie there. I'd watch it on PBS or whatever. And I recall seeing a couple of these back then, but I don't know if I didn't even know there was an order, and B, kind of forgot about it until about 2 or 3 years ago when Bernard Cornwell came up in the context of a couple other things. I was like, oh, Sharpe, and I remembered it, and I have all the episodes. Bought some DVDs, some used DVDs. Buy original media, even if you have to get it off eBay or garage sales. Get the original media, okay. And now I have the series where I can watch the series. I want to watch it through. I'm not doing a 2-hour in depth per episode. I don't do those. I'm a casual reviewer. I do a casual review. I might do like a summary review with a little more detail at the end of each season, but I don't know about that. We'll see. I want to be casual with you guys, chit chat, like we're talking, type of thing. So that being said, let's get into this. This is Season 1, Episode 1 of Sharpe's Rifles, which is based on the book Sharpe's Rifles, right? I got a nice. Where is my image? Oh, image 2. Oh, why did that shrink up so much? Real-time correction. So usually when I pick an image to put out to display above my little video clip that we'll go over, I try to pick something to me that is seminal to the episode. And this based on the plot of the episode, that image sums it up very well. That Sharpe is kind of an asshole, but he's like your asshole. He's like if he was gonna lead, you need a team leader, and the person was an asshole. But at least when you're on their team, they're your asshole. You know what I mean? Like they got you back. And so what's the plot here? Sharpe, he's a enlisted man. Now this takes place in the Napoleonic Wars of Portugal in the 1800s and all that. And he's a British enlisted man. And back then, The officers were basically the nobility and the upper tier of the merchant class. Had just begun to creep into being considered the same as the lower nobility. There's a big sort of transition going on where the born royals were being supplanted economically by wealthy people. That's in large part what led to the American Revolution, by the way. That sort of transition away from inherited power to earned power. I'm grossly oversimplifying. I'm just saying to keep this in mind what's going on. And so there was a resentment from the there's a sort of considered to be a natural barrier, let's say, between those who are born to it versus those who worked in the grime. And the positive aspect, like the negative aspect, is what it sounds like. The positive aspect is what they call noblesse oblige, where good nobles have their peasants back, so to speak, and do the right thing, and they understand they have to protect and all that. And the bad ones are just jerks, or whatever. So that's kind of the premise here. So Sharpe is a poor man, an enlisted man. He does reveal his background in this, that his mother was a prostitute. He was born in a whorehouse, raised in an orphanage and all that. And he had a very practical set of skills. He's tough as nails. He has a good moral character, by the way. He's not an anti-hero per se, right? And he gets, and the Duke Wellesley, I think. I don't remember the guy's name. Like I said, I haven't read the books, which is how I remember the names more than anything. And they're at war, in Napoleonic Wars. The French sneak attack his Duke, who was out riding alone for whatever reason, and he managed to save him because he's very sharp with a rifle. He's an elite rifleman, right? So the Duke promotes him to an officer, and that is a lot of times how people who were in poverty, the non-noble classes, would become nobles. The first guy would do a growth of heroism for the noble. The noble would take them under promote them to the lowest rank of nobility. Like maybe they would knight them, or in this case he got promoted to an officer, which is kind of like being knighted in a sense, And then they would mentor them, and there'd be the resentment of the first generation. They'd be considered uppity and all that. But if they did that, they continued to serve well. That's how the nobility expanded, by selectively plucking from the lower classes. So that's kind of the premise how this starts. So then turns out the colonel / Duke has a kind of like a right hand man who's more like a left hand man. He's a sneaky guy, and he sees Sharpe as the guy who. So this guy does a lot of dirty work. He does the secret negotiations. He's that type of guy, and he says Sharpe is the right guy to get to his work. So he has these chosen men, these elite riflemen, and scouts, and basically like the, kind of like the equivalent of special forces back then, and knows that Sharpe is the guy to put in command of them, and he does, and that's the premise of the movie, right? He gets tossed immediately into a mission they have to take. They have to make contact. They're struggling. They have no money. They haven't been able to pay the troops in like 2 or 3 months. There's a draftsman a draftsman from London with a banknote that they can use to draw on local banks to pay cash to the soldiers. And he's missing, so they want to go in and find this guy, right? In the course of finding that guy, they get involved in this in sort of, I guess you would say, the Spanish Civil War at the time, between the two contestants of Spain, one of which was were loyal to religious ideology, another which was to the Enlightenment ideology of rationalism. The book anyway, and they get involved in that. So there seem like there are two plot lines, but they converge. Again, full spoilers. This is like 15, 20 years old, so this is full spoilers, right? So on the course of the mission, Sharpe's crew, they get involved. That's basically the plot, right? So why am I skipping around? Okay, let's stop with the ums and stop, right? Okay, so before we talk about some things I enjoyed and didn't enjoy, let's talk about the acting. Sean Bean's an A-class actor. He's been an A-class actor for a long time. The dude needs more. Now that he's older, I really hope he gets some big-time, older actor, classical, Oscar-worthy role type. I mean, I don't care about the Oscars, but he deserves more weight in the roles he gets. He's a classic. The same way Viggo Mortensen got a push after he did Aragorn, Sean Bean should have got a push after he did Boromir, and he didn't seem to get that push in my view. Okay. What else? The supporting cast. I recognize a couple of them from watching some British dramas over the years. No one who leapt out to me, but it's all good, high quality acting for this level of production. Any level of production, the acting elevates it. The sets and all that look like they filmed a lot on site. I'm not sure where, but when you see the actors walking through the mud, they're actually walking through the mud. And outside somewhere. So they must have found some sort of fields where they filmed all this and the battles and whatever. The battles are realistic. When you are 40 guys on the ground in the middle of nowhere with nowhere to retreat in a narrow valley, and you get ambushed by cavalry charged with guys with guns and swords from both ends, you're pretty much going to die, right? And this, by the way, this is the era when you have basically had muskets transitioning to rifles. But there's a name for it. There's musket. Then there was a next type of gun. Then there was a rifle that actually fired a bullet, which was with a powder and the shell and the casing in one with the powder, and you just loaded the bullet. They still have to stuff and load musket style. I don't remember the name of the gun in between musket and fully functional, like rifle with a bullet type of thing. But they do depict it well. So the acting, scene quality, the direction to me is where this was a little off. The story, the overarching story was good. How they got from point to point felt choppy, but I'm wondering if when they filmed this 2-hour movie, they really filmed it as like maybe 3 episodes and then chunked it together later or something, because it felt very blocky, right? Like there'll be a scene, then there'll be a transition that's not very smooth, then another scene or whatever. And the story makes sense. It just felt it could have been smoother, right? As far as the criticism goes. So what else? So again, not going to belabor this. I've been going at this for 12 minutes. So let's get to what I liked in the episode. I'll start. You won't hear it. You will see some subtitles when I skim through. Well, there are no subs. So you won't even see. I can't do that. Okay. So this gives you. It opens with giving you the setting, right? There you go. This is how Sharpe got his commission. There's Duke Wellington riding alone for some reason with his hound. He gets jumped by some French guys. There's Sharpe basically taking the guys out. Classic, you beat them to death with the rifle butt, cracking their skull open or smashing their throat. Then that's another classic move you would do from, with this type of where guns with single shot. Less than he can really go with that. Where when you take a guy down, if you have time, you grab his gun and hopefully it's loaded. You get another shot off because you have time to load your own. That was well done. This is a great scene. Look at Sean Bean. He's a good. I don't know if they told Sean, we're going to focus in on your face, get a good facial expression or not. But as an actor, even if you see him in the background, he always fully acts, right? He doesn't mail it in even as background roles. Excuse me. So that it says that he saved them. That's the guy I was saying who takes Sean Bean under his mentorship. There's the guy who promotes him. So there he is. He's promoted him. This is when he gets the secret mission. This is him getting his troops together. They're kind of on call. They're good. They show the point that these guys some of them are observant. So they don't just let anyone wander in. And by the way, if you wonder, wait, how is it that he's pointing at an officer and not recognizing? You will see even in this episode, which is true even in a modern and ancient military context, if you can look and speak like your enemy, you can put the uniform and sneak right in if you don't have established security procedures. That's why you gotta have passwords, password of the hour, code word of the hour. Even I remember one of my uncles talking. back about World War II when they were on the lines in the Pacific, um, you know, mo- if they had no Asian U.S. troopers on their side, so to speak, they could tell when they couldn't get infiltrated, so to speak. But in cases where they had American Asian troopers, um, some who were Japanese, because they were natural translators, and the Japanese who fought in the U.S. were very loyal. Okay, even though the internment camps happened, they were very loyal. They said there was increased incidents of the enemy Japanese trying to use that to sneak in by getting an American uniform and pretending to be an American, sneak in and stuff like that. So again, that's something you always have to be aware of in a military context. Infiltration. If your enemy looks enough and sounds enough like you, they can get away with it. And this is a good thing that they showed the infantryman was on guard, even though his friend was sleeping. We probably shouldn't have been sleeping. Now, this is him fighting. So these troopers are basically roughnecks. They're now. This is why I said it's kind of choppy, right? Because Sharpe goes from where he gets the promotion straight to these guys, when we know from like listening to what they're saying that there was clearly a period of time where word about Sharpe spread that a guy had been jumped up from the ranks. Because they're already talking about it as if they know this is he's an infantryman. He's going to be a horrible officer because he was an infantryman. He's not the right type of officer that we can trust because he's one of us. He's basically one of us. We can't trust one of us, so having one of us as an officer can't be trusted. So they were trying to at this point they kind of recognize him, and eventually they'll come. This is Sharpe trying to assert his authority over them. Now this guy comes in. This is the guy. Sharpe was assigned to cover for Sharpe's operation was to be under this guy's command, and Sharpe was warned. This guy will not like that you are a jumped up infantryman. So his senior was telling him, keep your mouth shut. He won't overstep because he knows you're one of my guys. Don't you make it worse while I have to intercede. Just keep your mouth shut. Take the crap he gives you, and I'll deal with it when you get back. And the guy facing him right now is he's a bad officer. Okay, we see that clearly on. The other guy, and this is why this show is good. He gets killed with the bad officer and all the troopers, but he's a good officer. This guy's being a jerk to Sharpe. This guy is good to Sharpe, and he knows what he's doing. The guy we see in the face between, and so that's a good depiction. You have your good lead officer, and his command is less bad because his number two guy, that major, so the colonel on the left, the major in the middle, that major is a good officer who knows how to organize things and work around the bad colonel, right? So the major steps in and sort of helps a bit for Sharpe. But then there's that jumping where you can tell by dialogue things are occurring, but they're just jumping right through it, right? So Sharpe here, he walks in a Sharpe fight with the guys, and Sharpe basically covers for the guys, and it's kind of the guys kind of get a sense, okay, Sharpe isn't gonna rat us out for stupid stuff, right? So, but then they plot to get rid of Sharpe because they think he's gonna get them killed. Because there's a quote later. There's two types of officers: those that get you murdered and those that get you killed. And they think he's the type of officer that's gonna get them killed, murdered because he's not a real officer. An officer who gets them murdered is someone who gets them due to their incompetence and bad leadership and not having their men's back. Where someone gets you killed is taking you to a battle, but you get killed by the natural courses of war, right? So that's there are two types of officers. This guy, I would say of my supporting actors, my favorite one is this guy here. The role he plays as he's a grizzled older guy who's been in the infantry a long time, by the impression, and his body's aching out. And he and Sharpe commiserate a bit and kind of bond. That's the first bridging of the gap between Sharpe and the troopers. This is where they decide they're basically going to either force Sharpe out or get him or kill him because they think the Irish guy who's like the kind of like the squad sergeant, even though he's not, eventually does become the squad sergeant, but he's the unofficial one. He thinks Sharpe is a bad officer, and you will get, if you don't know when you watch this, if you don't know, this is the Irish versus mainland British, which is English, Scottish, Welsh, antipathy because Irish felt conquered. It's a whole thing, the whole historical thing that continues even to the modern day. So this is when they all get slaughtered, the troopers. The The only thing I don't like is that, and they did this is because, the horses are worth more than the actors. In this real confrontation like this, the soldier on foot, the first thing he would do is kill the horse by cutting its legs off. Because at a good time, the horse, because of throwing the guy, maybe from top, would kill the guy charging you. Okay, you use the horse to your defense. You don't want the horse to hit you. If the guy has a sword on the right side, you roll to the left, you cut the horse's leg out, and you let the horse tumble. And while the guy's stumbling, you run up and you shank him in the head or the back or something. They still would have lost because they were outnumbered and they got all the guys at horseback and whatnot. Caught by surprise. But I understand why they didn't depict that, because they didn't want to risk hurting the rental horses. I get that. And now Sharpe's men were sent up the hill to be scouts, to scout, and the colonel did that because out of spite. He was going to let the regular men rest and then punish Sharpe and his men because he considered Sharpe to be up jumped, and he also had disdain for Sharpe's company of Rough Riders, as it were, and sent them up the hill to scout. Sharpe was a good officer and was letting his men take a rest before they spread out. In other words, they were scouting a little, but they were resting while he was being a good officer. And while they all attacked, some of them were ready to jump up and hold down, but Sharpe stops them because he knows it's a slaughter. He recognized right away the slaughter, so he protects his men from being slaughtered. So bit by bit, Sharpe is earning the respect of the various members of the troop, which is good. Okay, and there's a long build towards him earning the Irish guy's respect, which is, And this is the introduction of the plot with the Spanish people, and their ongoing arc, which is basically trying to raise a historical flag, which would rally the more religiously loyal Spanish to the cause, fighting the French, versus the more intellectually driven Spaniards who were siding with the French, basically. This is when they found that they recovered a couple of people, the two survivors from the ambush, the major here, who is dying, who gives Sharpe his sword, and then an enlisted man who joins the team. So this is when the crap is hitting the fan. So Sharpe is about to have this is a pretty good fight between two guys who have no, like back then they didn't really know, soldiers knew how to fight. They had martial arts that they learned in Europe. Like they would learn fisticuffs, boxing, and some wrestling skills. Okay, that was part of the training. Not for the people who were levied up, the peasants who took them, but for guys who were in the actual military, the career guys, they got repeated training, and became decent at fisticuffs and wrestling and stuff like that. Right? That was the whole purpose of the martial arts, and they did, Okay, we're heading towards almost 25 minutes. Let's see if we get through this. So that they have a throwdown here. The Spaniards walk in and just interrupt them. Sharpe and his guys go talk about whether Mr. Sharpe are giving them orders. So they go with the Spaniards to where they're going, and Sharpe's guys are scouts, and they're already making it easier by here. This is when Sharpe gets revenge on them for the massacre. He planted some basically gunpowder, and sort of wired explosive type of thing. Well, we'd call it a wired explosive. Back then, it's probably a tripwire with a match. Gets a little revenge. Now, the Irish guy has been put in cuffs, and he's being held because he's considered a mutineer, because Sharpe had enough of him not obeying his orders. So he said, "Look, after the beatdown, he said, put him in cuffs. When we get back home, I'll have him try it in court-martial." That's basically how the plot going through. Eventually, they meet up. They get to the rendezvous town, which turns out to be an ambush. That because the French are trying to help the Enlightenment Spanish get a hold of what's in the religious artifact, which is when the Irish guy regains his respect of Sharpe by remaining loyal, even though he's basically condemned to death. He remains loyal. He's going to die a loyal English, a loyal British man, and he defends the the Spanish guys are killed, he defends the post, so to speak, and it successfully repels the invaders, as it were, with a little nifty gun trick. And then Sharpe disciplines him properly when he gets back, but just as a congratulations for him doing his duty, he gives him proper discipline, welcomes him back to the team. Again, Sharpe building his relationship with the men in this show is great. It's one of the best things you will see in this show. There's a lot of great stuff, but in this episode, watching Sharpe build a relationship with his new unit in without having even in ancient militaries, the way that happened in the past was you train with the unit for a while, you learn the ebb and take. The good officer would moderate their behavior in ways, that's how you become the commander of the unit. When you do it on the fire, in a modern context, soldiers have an incredible amount of training and discipline. So if even in World War II, right? Like my grandfather, he was an infantryman, but he was a sergeant. He was a command infantryman, so to speak, a command enlisted man. And what he said was, with how many people we can kill, especially when they're on the beaches, your officer could be killed. Then you have to be ready if another officer comes in and assumes command. Like if your lieutenant is killed and the lieutenant from the squad over assumes command, you got to be ready to once you get the proper verification that you're just going to obey him like he was your lieutenant. And likewise, then 3 hours later, you could be marching inland, let's say, and that lieutenant is killed, and then the captain comes up, promotes one of your guys to acting lieutenant, and then you got to obey him like he's a lieutenant, and that captain might be, you got to. But that's in their trade to know how to properly assess and adjust to officers. Back then, trial on the fire, man. I mean, this depicts very well the sort of way you'd have to do it, And Bernard Cornwell knows his history. He's a historical fiction master writer, and so you can, And then that's basically the episode. A lot of hijinks. Good times, bad times. Troopers getting together. Sharpe does an investigation because he's trying to figure out what's really going on. This one, Sharpe finds out what's actually going on with the Spanish conflict. He sneaks around, and that's when the plots reconverge at this point. And this is a nice final battle where the riflemen, they stage a fighting retreat and repel a large French invasion, trying to get at the town that they're in. Now, it should be pointed out, even though the guns look similar, that the guns that Sharpe's men have, I don't remember enough about this to be an expert at it, but enough dimly, because I've seen a lot of firearm discussion in media over the years. They have superior weapons, more accurate weapons. That was the thing about muskets versus, I think, what Sharpe's men have fire bullets, not musket balls, which are more accurate, right? But musket balls, after about a certain short range, are not very accurate. But musket fire in mass, that's why they would mass fire muskets. Whereas we have a rifle with an actual bullet, even if it's not, whatever I said before, that has accuracy at greater range. Plus, Sharpe's men are sharpshooters, okay? So that's why they're taking these guys out. The Sharpe's men have superior position. They know they're bottlenecked, so this is a good battle. They do a stage a retreat, and eventually they get up on the roof and they defend the area by taking out almost all the French guys, causing them to retreat. And that's basically our episode, right? And of course, a little romance at the end. So, like I said, the good points: acting, overall writing, the overall story, the depiction of Sharpe and his men coming together, the story. You understood the story being told. Positives, the setting positive, and negatives are, the main negative was the choppiness of it, right? So, my name is Matt. This has been way longer than I thought it would be. Maybe because I really enjoyed it. I recommend you go watch this. Certainly start with the episode. I'll probably do one of these a week, depending as I have time. But Happy New Year. This should be posted New Year's Eve. My Reacher episode 5 should be posted probably right after that. And have a great 2024. Like if you like, share down below. I'm out of here.